Thank you, and good afternoon, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, fellow officers. Good afternoon, as I've said, corrected me here, and welcome to today's licensing committee meeting. I am Councillor Jeremy Cottam, the chairman of the committee. I am supported today by members of the committee who are Councillor Phil Barnett, Paul Dick, Billy Drummond, Nigel Foote. I'm not sure he's here. Not here. Paul Kander, Jane Langford, David Marsh, Stephanie Stevenson, Clive Taylor, and Martha Vickers. Last but not least, with Ms. Julia O'Brien, Sean Murphy, and Moira Fraser are the officers who will be advising the meeting. Sam Chiverton is in attendance as clerk to the meeting, and Zoom host is Gordon Oliver. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube, so members of the public are able to follow the proceedings. Please can I ask everyone present in the meeting to make sure when speaking to be loud and clear so that at home we can be heard. Can I also ask you to be sure that you have put your phones onto silent and have turned the sound off on your tablets, please, or computers even. If we hear the evacuation alarm this afternoon, we must leave the building immediately. Please proceed via the safe emergency exit route, which will be shown to us by trained officers. Please follow any instructions given by the trained officers. The assembly point is the Dolphin car park. Anyone requiring help will be assisted accordingly by trained officers. Do members have any questions about the way in which this meeting will be conducted before we proceed?
No, sir.
Thank you for that. We have we received apologies?
None received, Chair. There may be some from the floor.
Sorry, Chairman. And Julia O'Brien is on her way, but she's stuck in traffic at the moment. She'll be here as soon as she can.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'll move to item 2, minutes, and I'll hand over to my vice chairman for that, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Obviously, I chaired the meeting at the time, so are people content that these minutes are correct? Is there anyone who want to raise anything differently? No? So a proposer? Councillor Barnett, thank you, and Councillor Kander seconded. Everybody in favour?
That's carried. Thank you very much indeed.
Anybody not? And there's an abstention from your good side.
Exactly.
And there's just one thing I wanted to ask about. Those who were here will remember we had this conversation where rules and laws are often judged by how often or how well they are enforced. And we discovered almost by accident, if you remember, that while we do grant licenses, we can also take them away. And this has happened in recent memory. So I think the members at the time were a little bit surprised by that, hadn't heard about that. And I think the minutes suggested, I very cleverly suggested that the chairman meet with the appropriate officer and just find out a bit more about that process to better inform the committee at a future meeting. I don't know if that's happened. It obviously hasn't, but if the chairman's willing, I'm sure it can.
Well, as I'm here now, I'll so request and we'll get together, I'm sure, at one of the briefings that we can catch up on that as well. Thank you very much indeed. Right, item 3, have members anything to declare?
No, Chairman.
Thank you. So we go to item 4. Sean Murphy to please introduce the report on item 4, licence fees and charges.
Chairman, point out there were some points that were to be that I asked question the last time and I was waiting for an answer. On the question, Councillor Billy Drummond question where residents, wherever it shows the slow EV charging points and Moira Fraser explained the state of held by the environmental team and officer investigates. Has that been investigated, Moira?
Chairman, I have asked the environmental team, they haven't come back to me, so apologies for that. I will chase it
Okay,
again.
thank you.
Councillor Drummond.
Thank you, Councillor Drummond. Sean.
So thank you, Chairman. This paper that's before the committee tonight is a paper that those of you that have been on the committee for a number of years will see a version of this every year comes to you. So this paper really is focused on the setting of discretionary fees. So just to explain the process, as you'll be aware, that the Public Protection Service is a shared service. Every year, the Joint Public Protection Committee, which covers the two authorities and will soon cover the three, basically is asked to propose a budget back to the councils. So that budget consists of the net revenue contribution from each of the councils and also includes basically proposals on fees and charges. So for a number of years now, basically the fees and charges have been based upon an hourly rate. And effectively the fee is arrived at by multiplying that hourly rate by the number of hours that a particular task or the time period that a particular task takes to deliver that task. So if for example, basically we look at the licensing of a taxi, a vehicle, basically a renewal of that basically would take 4 hours, and therefore the fee is 4 times the hourly rate. And that goes throughout the whole of the sort of charging process. And there are details in the report about the kind of things that are covered. So it's not just the administration; it's all of the oversight, the democracy that sits around that, the committee that's here tonight, the policy setting, compliance, and everything else basically that goes around that. So as well as, and very importantly, within that hourly rate, there is an element of support service recharges. So you'll be aware that basically there is a revenue budget for the service that deals with everything what we call above the line. So effectively the spend on staffing, systems, supplies and services. But then there is a nominal support service recharge, which deals with the elements like HR, legal, finance and everything else basically as a proportion of the service. So I just want to, with your permission, Chairman, just explain to the committee how we've arrived at the figures we have this year. So you'll see it's 7.2%, and you'll be thinking, well, that's above the current inflationary figure, basically, and it is likely to be above the overall figure for fees and charges in the council this year. The reason why basically it is what it is this. So when the budget was set for this year for the Joint Public Protection Service, there were a couple of assumptions made. So that was set about a year ago. It was proposed basically, and there were a couple of assumptions made. One of them was that the annual salary increase would be 2.5%. That subsequently turned out to be 3.2% with on costs. The second thing is, and that nobody knew at the time, there would be an increase in employer national insurance contributions. So that's caused a significant, let's put it, probably better way of putting it, a significant pressure in year for us, because obviously that wasn't built into the budget allocation this year. But of course, those two pressures, the employer national insurance contribution and the additional 0.7% of the salary increase, with the associated on costs. So there would have been some NI on costs associated with that, and there would have been some pension related costs, although minimal associated with that, have carried forward into this financial year. So looking ahead to the assumptions for this financial year, or looking ahead to the assumptions for 26-27, the assumptions of the budget build are that there would be a cost of living pay rise of 3.5%. With the associated national insurance and pension contribution costs that are associated with that. When you add those two figures together, then obviously you're getting closer to the 7.2%. The final element of this is made up as follows. So when the hourly rate was set many years ago, first set, I think it was 2018, looking at Moira, something like that, I think was the first year we set the hourly rate. We did include the support service recharge at that time. What we hadn't been doing basically in the intervening period was increasing that support service recharge. There has been an increase in that support service recharge in the intervening period. That increase, I think, was around 35%. Now, it sounds like a lot, but in terms of the cost base for setting the hourly rate, it is only about £1 in £10 or £1 in £11. So it has made a minimal impact. But given that basically the desire of the authorities is to see full cost recovery, basically it has nevertheless been included in there. So adding all of those factors together, you get to an hourly rate, basically, which is £74 an hour as an average. That's the hourly rate across the whole service. It includes everything from your time to my time to basically, everything basically is included in there. And that is an increase of 7.2%. The trade, I believe, have been notified, the taxi trade have been notified. Obviously, it will affect other sectors other than the taxi trade, taxi and private hire trade. So the discretionary fees include things like animal establishments. They include other licenses and things, but effectively that will be dealt with through the council's normal fee consultation. So just looking at the detail of the statutory element of the consultation here, we are required to go out to consultation on 3 fees in particular. One of them is private hire vehicles, hackney carriage vehicles and private hire operator fees. So that's the other element of the recommendations that before the committee tonight, that we're asking for basically the go-ahead, I suppose, or the consent, approval of the committee to go out to consultation on those fees. We would then come back to the committee at the meeting in January, basically with the feedback that we've got as a result of that consultation, and then the committee will make a final recommendation on the statutory fees to council. So to sum up where we are, what we're asking the committee tonight is basically to agree that the majority of the fees, discretionary fees, go forward into the normal council fee setting cycle. The ones that require statutory consultation go out to statutory consultation, and we come back basically to the committee with the outcome of that consultation, and those ones will be finalised for recommendation in January. Yeah, I think basically that covers actually the 2 primary recommendations. There was just a couple of other points I was going to note. So one of the sets of fees in here basically relates to animal establishments. The fee that is in the schedule basically is the fee for the administration of that process. There is an additional fee which is charged for the inspection work that's done. We don't know what that fee will be at the moment because that relies on, so those inspections are conducted for us by the City of London, who've got an animal health specialist team, basically, and we don't know what those fees are. So what we've said at this stage is that basically they will be recharged at cost. The administration of all of that is in the fee that we're setting, but effectively those fees will be charged at cost. But we do know that basically there has been a significant increase in those fees basically that are charged, but that unfortunately is out of our hands. What we are doing basically is seeking to recruit our own person. In fact, we've got an advert out now. We're trying to recruit somebody who is qualified to carry out those inspections, and then we can basically carry out a lot of those inspections ourselves, which will help us as well, basically. So, and then the second point I was just going to make is that, the discretionary fees, basically, I don't know off the top of my head exactly what proportion of the fees they do make up, but there is still a significant shortfall on what would have been the statutory fees. And we raise this every year. The chairman, I know, has written to government about this, but those statutory fees now, basically, particularly the ones under the Licensing Act 2003, are now around about 70% behind inflation. But there's no indication at the moment that the government are intending to raise those, but they have not risen since effectively the legislation came into being.
Thank you very much. Thank you for a very comprehensive report. Just two things before I open it to members. Basically, we have to be seen legally as being reasonable. And I welcome any questions from the members. Basically, I feel they look reasonable to me. The other second point is if you look along the prices, you'll see an asterisk, and these are the fees where there will be increased charges because of the City of London inspectors. May I just point out to the officers, maybe we should give them some pushback and give them an opportunity to take their costs and think about it, because if they think we're very happy with these fees, they're just going to keep increasing them. So it might be worth having a word with them and just saying, are you sure you want to increase these fees? In business, that's what I would do to a supplier. Are you sure you want to do that?
I mean, I think we certainly have had discussions about the fees recently, basically, because obviously they went up this year, and they went up this year before we knew that they were going to go up. So that left us again with another problem in year. But ultimately, basically, our aim is to reach the point where we have our own capability to deliver these inspections ourselves.
Shall we go to that?
Yes.
About that? Sorry, thank you. We talked about this very recently, and I just want, for clarity's sake, so we're looking to bring it in-house, which has benefits, obviously, but I'm rather hoping you can give us an indication of what the benefit would be in terms of a reduction in these sorts of fees. Do you expect there to be a reduction? Do you expect us to be able to do that in-house much cheaper? Because I think that was kind of the assumption that...
Well, yes.
In terms of basically the officer time to do the inspections, I mean, certainly basically the time allocation that we put against these inspections against what would be our hourly rate would see basically less than the businesses would currently be being charged.
Oh, we would be expected.
But there's all sorts of good reasons for that. So clearly, basically, we're local. We're not having to come out of Heathrow. Basically, there's not those time issues and everything else. So there are good reasons why that's the case. And they have assisted us. The City of London have assisted us basically in periods when we just haven't had, unfortunately, the capability to do these, despite the fact that we have invested in training. We did to get somebody qualified, unfortunately, then left.
Yeah.
So, but we really do want to basically to develop our own capabilities to deliver this, and that would be to the benefit of the local trade.
I think we all look forward to that. Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to say that far from being disturbed by a 7.2% rise, I am disturbed that those statutory fees have not been raised since 2003 and 2007. I think this is totally unacceptable. We cannot run on a shoestring that is 22 years out of date or 18 years out of date. And far from thinking that this council is charging too much, I had a conversation outside the council offices at the end of the taxi meeting with 3 chaps who said we're cheap compared to others. We can charge what we need to charge to be efficient. And I like the idea of us offering our own inspection services, but we've got to be able to pay for it.
I think these fees will incorporate that, yes.
Did you contact? Because in the minutes last time I asked if someone would contact government.
I actually took it forward to full council and got the weight of the full council to send it to the local government authority, to the relevant ministers, and it just seems to be like in a black hole. It just disappeared out of sight and we never got a reply. I think with the agreement of the committee that we'll basically get hold of 2 of our MPs and ask them individually to take up this issue. So would officers please take upon themselves to put together a very similar letter to what I sent out when I was chairman of council, asking them to urgently review the statutory fees. It's absurd that we should be seeing, like a 70% difference. No wonder we're herniating money, it needs to be set right. So yes, I completely agree, Councillor Stevenson, and I'll ask the officers. Sean?
Chairman, I think it's a really important point that Councillor Stevenson makes, because in reality, basically, these things do have consequences. I mean, our budgets are built every year with the assumption that basically there would be some increase in these statutory fees. The reality is we had to cut a number of posts from other parts of the service that would have been used for delivering environmental health and trading standards functions, basically to close the gap on the statutory fees, which just haven't risen for years. Now, I understand basically at the moment, and I'm sure this would be the position of many, that there are sectors within the licensed sector that are facing real challenges, in particular hospitality and things like that. But arguably, there are other elements within that sector that we license that arguably could well afford to pay higher fees.
For example, hypermarkets and supermarkets.
Well, I mean, the statutory fees, basically, if you look at them, they've always been relatively low compared to the discretionary fees, but they don't bear really any resemblance on the cost of actually delivering those functions. So if you go back to a statutory fee, for example, for a temporary event notice, which was designed basically for an event that you might have, in a kind of local school, basically that they put on to have some sort of wedding reception for one night and things like that. But in reality, some of these events are huge. They've got 499 people there. Basically, you've got all the incumbent issues that we have that are associated with that around environmental health implications, potentially safety implications. That fee is £21. We can't even administer the issuing of that permit for £21.
A point very well made. I'm sorry. Apologies. Councillor Barnett.
Oh, thanks, Chairman. Question through the chair to Sean. Riding establishments, obviously, it starts off at 7.2 and then it goes up, and then it reduces and then goes back up. Presumably, you've tried to round off the figures because it's obviously not increased on a straightforward 7.2 across the board. Was there any thought process why that was? It depends on the number of horses. The categories, 3 different categories.
Chair, I'm not entirely sure. Whilst Moira searches for that detail,
shall we?
Okay, I think we may have an answer.
So it is exactly what you are saying, Councillor Barnett. It is related to rounding up figures. So it's generally speaking 7.2%, but to get to 7.2% for the individual horses, you probably land up with an amount of around £11.83 or something like that, which we
it was a rounding up situation. That's what I presumed.
Yeah.
I thought I'd just ask the question. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, just a question on the Antisocial Behaviour Act item, which relates to high hedges fee. And I must say that I've been threatened with prosecution by Reading Borough Council twice in relation to this, but also I've been involved in cases on behalf of residents against West Berkshire Council, again under this legislation. I just wonder, I'm trying to get my head around who is this fee payable by? I mean, is it by the person trying to get the offending hedge cut, or is it, again, could someone explain how this works?
I'm not an expert on high hedges, but my understanding is that the fee is paid by the person who effectively is trying to get the matter resolved, in effect, basically. The fee looks like I don't know the figure off the top of my head, but it's quite a bit of money. But there's a lot of work involved in this, and some of these disputes, some of these issues around hedges can go on for several years. Isn't basically an uncommon situation, basically.
Okay, well, on the 2 occasions that I was told I was going to be prosecuted, I simply cut the hedge to avoid
Very sensible.
it happening. And And I was certainly totally unaware there was any fee involved either and I did know who the person was that was making the application, taking the action, which was a neighbour.
Right, thank you. I think that's clear. The point, Moira?
I think
we'd say that we would normally try mediation before we get
Yes,
to that
of
point.
course.
But the reason that the fee is so high is that we also have to pay for specialist arboriculturists or tree people to come along and do inspections, because sometimes it's dependent on tree species, etc. as well.
Thank you very much for that. Councillor Kanda?
Hi, it's just a couple of things. On page 12 of the report, or 28 of the pack, the top 6 items are asterisks, but I can't find a reference to what the asterisk means.
Page 20?
Page 12 of their report, 28 of the pack.
Yeah, there's a guide here on page 20.
Oh, on
Well, the
page
asterisk
20,
is-
is it? Of the report or of the pack?
Of, I believe it's the report.
Which
Is
page
this-
20, basically?
Well, of the, now you got me. I'm going,
Why are you looking at that then?
because I don't have my computer in front of me and I'm old fashioned. I look at pieces of paper
That
rather
must be
than
the report,
computers.
is it? Because I found some references to some stock items.
Licensing,
but-
registrations and consents.
Chairman, which heading are you speaking about, Councillor Kanda?
Maybe I'm,
So to page 12 of the report. Oh. Just the top 6 items. It's a Hackney carriage vehicle new,
don't have the page number itself, do you?
page 12 of the report or 28 of the pack.
Sorry, I've got it now.
all I've-
28 of the pack.
You're quite correct, Councillor Kanda, that should be removed. That's asterisk was there previously,
Okay.
because previously there was a discount for electric vehicles and
Okay.
hybrid vehicles.
Right.
So that explanation isn't on
Okay.
here anymore because that has now been
I'm not going
removed.
mad then.
No.
No, just me.
Today.
Fantastic. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And then my second item was in terms of the statutory piece, which is far behind and hasn't been increased. What's to stop us having a statutory top-up fee and just applying it and even showing it so that then we can
Well,
list it?
my understanding is set by central government and we have no way
I
of,
understand it's set by government, but we also know that it's way behind and it's not covering all the costs. So what's to stop us applying
it's
yet
an
another fee?
inconvenient thing called law.
Well, which is why I'm asking the question. So could we apply a fee and maybe not call it that, but we all know what it's for?
I think a solicitor might see through that.
Okay.
You
Just an
know,
idea.
I'm completely with you on this. It's crazy, and you know,
But not least of which, at some point it will happen, and then suddenly our fees will go through the roof.
maybe we can ask for a retrospective.
Just a thought. That was all.
No, English law isn't, is it? No.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there was a similar situation with planning fees that went on for years, and but even a modest increase like there was with the planning fees, basically, which I think was about 23%, something of that order, would make a big difference, basically to us. But the other important thing, which is important to say, is that we're not allowed, and rightly so, to cross-subsidise between various licensed sectors. So effectively what we can't do, basically, so, each sector has to wash its face, as it were, financially in terms of the licensing regime around it. But it's really important to say that we're not allowed to do that, and we don't do that, basically. So we just are significantly out of pocket now when it comes to basically these statutory fees.
Okay, thank you.
As an authority.
You finished, Councillor Kanda?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Stevenson.
I'd like to agree with Councillor Kanda. And why can we not investigate a way
Well-
of introducing our own fee? And bear in mind, they're prepared to ignore us. Well, if they continue to ignore us, we won't even know we're doing anything wrong. Oh, I've been recorded as saying that. What a pity. But there's no reason why we can't ask our officers to investigate a way of introducing a top-up fee that you've just suggested.
Yes.
That is listed as a separate line and adds to
Well,
our statute.
I will ask the officers and we'll see what their reply comes back. I'd rather go through the fight from within the system and go to the MPs first, because I do suspect that there are fairly fixed regulations. Councillor Vickers.
Well, just wondering whether other local authorities must be in a similar position to us. Are we talking to them? Or
Yes,
giving
yeah,
them
we
a
are.
joint effort?
In the Joint Public Protection Committee, it was discussed at the last meeting. Yes, and this is my frustration. You know, you try and do things by the rules and regulations, which we, as a council, we're obliged to. We're supposed to set a shining example of how things are supposed to be done and processed within the rules and regulations. And I absolutely feel for, you know, what we're saying and what we're trying to do. But I, as chairman, I can't recommend we go down that path. But I will ask officers to investigate if there are any alternatives legally, and not hound, but pursue our local MPs and ask for them to stand up in Parliament and ask questions for this. Fine, thank you. I think we've done that one too. So we need a proposer and a seconder, please. I'll propose it from the chair. Seconded. Those four, please, to set the fees. And that's nearly unanimous. And those against? And abstentions? Is that an abstention? Call it an abstention. Okay, so that is carried. Thank you very much. So the has been carried. So we go to item 6, and my referrer to introduce the report on the taxi trade meeting in the supplementary pack.
Thank you, Chairman. And obviously we had to circulate that document in the supplementary pack. Apologies, but it's all down to timing of the meetings. As members will know, we usually meet the trade twice a year to talk through relevant issues, policy changes, that kind of thing. We usually meet them in January and October, and meetings are specifically scheduled around the fee setting cycle. We met the trade on the 27th of November to discuss the proposed fees, which we have already discussed at length this evening. And then the trade also raised a number of areas that they would wish to discuss. In terms of the public register, Riley, my colleague who's taken over from Vicky, looking after he's the lead applications officer within the Public Protection Partnership now, has already started to compile those registers. The trade have asked for some additional information to go in there, and we've had to sort of go in and see if we were able to withdraw any of that information from our systems. The data is now being cleansed, and we anticipate publishing the revised registers by the end of the month at the very latest. The other matter that was discussed was the fare increases by the trade. This is what we pay when we get into a taxi. And the trade has said that they do want to look at the fares again, but in order to do that, they need to look at we need to set the taxi policy first, and then they'll see what implications that will have, which makes perfect sense. So they're likely to come back to the January trade meeting with a proposal, and then we'll come back to a report to the January meeting, setting out the timelines and methodology, because there's always a statutory consultation process attached to those fees. The trade also requested that the list of authorised garages be revisited. One of the garages that was currently on the list has indicated that they no longer wish to undertake the taxi checks, and the trade have also identified a further company who are interested in taking on doing the checking for us. I have had confirmation this evening that Mark Groves, our licensing enforcement lead officer, has been in contact with the replacement garage, and we're just now waiting to hear back from them. We will also be writing more generally to the garages within the area to see if there's anybody else that may wish to take on that work. And then there will have to be the relevant checks undertaken to make sure that they are fit to do that piece of work. In terms of the website, the trade mentioned that there was sometimes it led to confusion because they would go onto the West Berkshire website, click on the taxi trade stuff, and then it would take them through to the Public Protection Partnership website. And they weren't expecting to see that. It could be confusing for some. The digital services team have now put a note onto the front page of the West Berkshire licence, which would assist them with that. They also raised concerns about having to go onto the Bracknell Forest website to make online payments. That is going to take a little bit longer for us to resolve. Unfortunately, it's not a quick fix that we can direct there. The other main area really was around communication, and officers will be meeting on Wednesday to look at the content for our next newsletter, which we will endeavour to issue once every 2 months. We'd like to do it more frequently than that, but we cut the lead comms post, and so we just don't have the resources in the team to issue it more frequently than that. if there was a major kind of change or development or process change, obviously, you know, we would do that immediately rather than waiting for a change in between. And that's really it from the meeting. I don't know if members have any further questions.
Thank you. Do any members? It was a recent meeting. I think, you know, we treat this as an action list and treat it as such and keep it beside us as we go through the meetings. Councillor Stevenson.
Yes, sorry, it's me again. I think the two criticisms of the website are completely different. I did say that the people who are confused by the leap to Bracknell need someone alongside them who knows why it's happening. And now that Moira said we've got something headlining that this will go to another website, that's been solved. But I think the inability to pay online is so antiquated. I know that it's difficult to change, but we really should be offering, or whoever should be offering, an online payment facility. I think that needs to be quite an important action point. And also, I'm very glad that that Moira's agreed that we can reinstate this newsletter, but it has highlighted that we need the resources to be able to carry out, they need the resources to be able to carry out their job efficiently, and they can't do it to cut rate.
Completely agreed.
Chairman, I think they can play online. It's just the bad word Bracknell appears. Nobody wants to give money to Bracknell. It's a rude word.
I quite understand why.
So I think that's the issue, isn't it? But can I just highlight that meeting? I was embarrassed, as were you, about the way we appear to have treated these people. And they're not easy people sometimes, but the meeting we had a week ago, I think, felt like a huge step forward. And the bi-monthly newsletter and the other things that you're talking about were very well received. There's just one little thing I need to make sure for the meeting in January, and I know that you know, we have lots of powers, but moving Christmas isn't one of them. But we did promise that papers would go out before Christmas, and I think that'll be a big test of our new resolve.
Indeed. Thank you for that. And with that, this item is only to note. So unless there's any questions, we'll move along to item 6, to the forward plan. Members, as you know, we have been working through the taxi policy, and we are proposing to hold a meeting, a special meeting on the 15th of December, where we will be asked to adopt the new policy. This information is not on the forward plan in your packs at the moment, but that's why I'm mentioning it now. And ask members and officers if they can have any further amendments that they would like to make to the forward plan and come forward with those. Is there any officers wishing to go on? It's really just it's an information item on pages 53 and 54. Okay, thank you very much indeed. I think all the business has now been concluded, and thank you all for your attendance. I was going for half an hour, but we've 37 minutes is not bad. But we do have other meetings which are a lot more intense than this. And so the date of the next meeting is the 15th of December at, again, at 16:30 hours. And the next ordinary meeting is on the 19th? No. It's not the 19th, isn't? We're looking at the. Are we looking at the informal meeting on the 5th, 6th? We have a meeting before that, don't we?
So the informal taxi meeting is on the Monday, 2 weeks before.
Okay, I think I need to insert that because I know it doesn't exist to democratic services because we've checked. But it does exist to us, and it is a vital part of our sequence of meetings. So one on the 6th or the 5th.
I believe Monday is the 5th of January.
It is. So we all have recovered from the Hogmanay, especially hopefully Billy. And with that, I close the meeting. Thank you very much indeed. Panelists to remain in the room until the Zoom meeting has been closed, please. We're done. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.